Last time we expanded out a little bit with a successful war puppeting our Kievan neighbours. This time we're going to try again, take two, and spoiler alert, it's going to go a little bit differently. But we've also got some interesting economic things to unpack and a country to run. Let's get to it. Okay, so we're also starting to run low of a few slightly more advanced goods, iron and hardwood. Iron, we should be able to mine that ourselves. Jeez, and only in this territory. Damn, lucky we even have any, to be completely honest. What we probably want to do then in this state is just get its construction capacity up maybe to 5, just for the time being. We can lower that down, of course, in future as well. But I think if we up that and then let's get 4 iron mines to begin with. And then we'll also, now hardwood is a slightly more interesting one. We could import it if we want to. Or of course, we're going to be putting more pressure on our logging camps. Now, if I navigate to the building screen, of course, as you probably know by now, I know, I don't need to tell you, but we can change production methods and produce different things. And we might need to do that with, potentially with our lumber camps. So if we take a deep dive in, you can see they're burning through a little bit of cash in their reserves, but that's fine. Subsidize the industry if we need to. I don't think we do. At the moment, it's using wages and slave upkeep. We probably need to get on top of that if we want to really unlock this economy. And it's producing wood. Yeah, neat. What we can do is shift to hardwood production. That will decrease the amount of wood that they're making in this area. And unfortunately, it will have a slight impact on some of our reserves. The good news is, maybe temporarily, it'll increase the price of wood a fraction. We can afford to do that right now while construction's paused. The upside is it will introduce hardwood, bringing the price from the most expensive thing to the least. We'll, of course, need a little bit of extra demand for that. I'll get these two on hardwood production. As you can see, they'll pump out a little bit of hardwood now. Price still pretty high, should be all right. As we move through and unlock other things, we can start to buff things, or we could subsidize this as well. The state could just step in and be like, look, I need you to make hardwood. But I don't think we'll do that. Okay, over on the diplomatic play front, and you can see, as expected, the Russians were like, yeah, we'd love to be a part of this. Yike. That's okay. We don't really look to have any allies, although the Sikh Empire is a potential player now that we're starting to move a little bit into their turf. But you know what? That's fine. This thing's about to kick off. Let me shift over to military. Let's get our bad boy Fath into Fath about on this one, I think. You can be mobilized and get to that front line. It's a pretty tight front line. I don't know if we'll need everybody here, but we're going to do it anyway. Get your backside over there. Okay, so these guys will take a little while. They're traveling to the front line, but it's all good because the war hasn't quite started yet. The downside is, of course, the Russian threat. What have we got? Actually, if the Russians aren't going to immediately back down this time, is allow Khiva to defend their border. We'll get an army on this one, our smaller army, and then we'll try and punch through and destroy them. I actually think that's a better idea. So let's set this army to defend this Russian front line. Whew, they've already got some troops there, but we should be okay. And then we'll get these guys freaking hard out on the aggressive. All right, let's do a land-owning rural folk government, a slight reform. It'll give us definitely different policy levers that we can pull. The question is, would any of them actually get through? It feels unlikely. As you can see, a lot of the support's pretty low. Moving to per capita taxation would be fantastic, though. I'm going to try my cheeky move at per capita taxation and see what happens. Important to note other groups that align with our interests here too. Maybe we want to build up the PB after all, as well as the industrialists. These guys, super loyal. Politicking aside, the Russians have mobilized 9 battalions and war has broken out. Okay. What are we dealing with? And did they chicken out at the very last minute? No, they didn't. All right, so we've got active fighting on 3 fronts. At the moment, Khiva is pushing into Russia. Russia completely undefended from the Kievan advance. I love it. They're also fighting us here on this front line. They're sending more troops to reinforce. So for the time being, we're just going to hold as best as we can. You can see at the moment this defensive fight going. We're taking losses, but it is actually going in our favor. So we'll try and hold that defensive line as well as we can. The Kievan push will be swamped, I'm sure. Although at the moment, they are going. Go, you beautiful people. But really, of course, the one that we want to pay attention to is this one down in the south, the one I've been conveniently ignoring the whole dang fight. And it looks like it's pretty good news here. We've broken through not once, but twice, and we managed to inflict a few losses on them the second time. It's actually a somewhat of a difficult fight down here because of the Russians, but we should be okay. Let's check the strength on this front. Okay, in the event where conflict starts to go a little south because the Russians somehow magic some troops down here and start fighting, we're going to need to go into emergency plan B mode. That will involve, firstly, we'll pause our construction. Secondly, we could consider tapping out if we wanted to, the coward way. We would pay war reparations. Okay. Or we go all in full send it and activate an additional 80 conscripts. Okay, our defense on this front line is going really well. I'm not actually worried about that one at all. These guys are doing their own thing. It's now really this disaster that I need to focus on. They're still actually losing war support, so it's not all bad, but what we'll do is mobilize this general, and in 14 days, they're going to make their way to that front line as well. Kiva, how you doing? Okay. Yep. No, they took some big losses. Could consider rerouting these troops as this front line pushes. And wow, there is conflict going on everywhere. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, what we could do is bring additional support down here just to really push through. Our offense is disgusting. So actually, the other option is we temporarily pause and hold here too. Okay, the Kievan push is in full effect, winning a few wars. Why? Let's see what we can do. I think this was a mistake. Okay, the downside is because we're occupied, we're losing a lot more than we should. Otherwise, we would actually be able to just win this war through a war of attrition. But at the moment, just because we're slightly occupied, it's really not helping. I'm going to try for a push with these guys. Let's see if we can reverse this and push these 25 Russians and 2 Macrans back with our 84. It's not enough. It's just not enough. I think we should minimize our losses, save face, bail out, and acknowledge this, my friends, mistake. Hey, sorry, Macron. Just kidding. Won't it all be back for you later because I accidentally overstepped the mark and pulled the Russians into a potentially global conflict? Lol. Let me get back to building things. That was fun. Ooh, social banditry. The people of Sistan tell a story of a highwayman who robs the rich and gives to the poor throughout Persia. Love it. Okay, so we can hunt down the bandit, which will give us more chance of passing this tax law, which will make us a lot of money. Or we could get a 50% chance. Or we could just be like, actually, let's fix poverty instead and raise their standard of living. I don't like that. I want to go for the greatest chance I have. It's a 50-50. Okay. Do it. It worked. Fantastic. Okay, so in 200 days, we'll now have a 30% chance at success. If I roll this dice enough, I will make money, I promise you. Okay, I've been thinking about interest groups and also not, completely plummeting the economy into debt. So, construction. Might be time to just slow down on that a fraction. Yeah, okay. But anyway, I was thinking about interest groups, and this event came up, which was pretty cool because we can add a little bit more support to the intelligentsia and the rural folk, which is wonderful for us. Fantastic. Oh, look at that. The Shah's done. Persia gets by royal decree 20% chance, but the intelligentsia hate us. Sorry, intelligentsia. I'm literally just in it for the money as I start to import some more iron because we can't quite yet build our own. We're now at a 52% chance of getting this per capita taxation rate change. I'm so excited I can't even Pronounce my words. Now, is this the best policy of all time? Well, no. But as you can see, it will change our revenue by a whopping £10,000. Pretty good, especially while I'm paying for a couple of bolshy mistakes, shall we say. Boom! Per capita taxation is passed, and the rural folk and the PBs are very happy with us, which is great. The industrialists too, if we need them as a backup. Wonderful to see. That has given a vital lifeline to the economy. We're now starting to make money so we can pay down this debt and this interest and get things cruising again. The other thing that I want to do is start to fire some generals. We don't need all of these guys standing around. We'll look to see that all part of landowners and other groups, which is really bad. We don't really tend to get much of a choice. Here's one from the armed forces. We'll recruit that guy, and then we'll start to dismiss some of these ones. Landowners, yes, see ya. Who are you? You're part of the religious group. All right. Armed forces, neat. Landowners, we're allowed one or two. Probably filtered by their promotions as well, of course. Wrathful, you sound like the one for me. Our construction sector could be a little bit bolshy, especially in areas where we're not doing a lot of building. So I might just pinch a couple off, just to reduce costs and demand a little bit on that sector so that we can focus on growing and expanding into other ones. The other thing that I think I'm finally gonna do, toying with it, is jumping into the landowners and thinking about other ways that we can really break this group up. They are very powerful. They have a lot of population in a few different areas. They just don't really support the kind of laws that we want to pass, unfortunately. Okay, let's do something a little radical and try and move away from the autocracy that we're currently in and shift towards landed voting. I think this is a good idea, moving us in the right direction to try and free up a little bit more political power. It'll be difficult, it'll probably cost us approval, and we'll have to make some difficult event decisions, but I reckon it's probably gonna be worth our time. 17% success chance isn't great, but we should get there. We could also look at these groups who would like it to pass. We also note that our religious group would like us to pass national supremacy. Interesting. Maybe we want to be supporting the intelligentsia a little bit more than we're doing at the moment. We could look to up government wages as a starting point. Probably a good idea. Let's really crank their wages up for a bit, actually, and we'll lower military wages to balance it out. That way it won't cost us too much extra, and we should raise their approval and support and try and bring them a little bit more into our good side. We have a few active journal entries that we could look to move towards. Religion, autocracy, and nationality is one of the most basic ones. We're kind of there. Farms to factories, the Metropolitan Police, and then there are some more interesting ones that we could look to move towards down the line. Egyptian Persia interest now activated as they really reach across the Ottomans and just chop them in two. We could improve our relations. We could be friends here. I like this. I might also bring... No, I think that's probably fine. Okay, we've still got a problem with wood in our market. I've changed our production methods so that we're just building softwood again, and that seems to have had a slight impact. Changing the tariffs won't really do too much. We're still trying to build more logging camps, and I'm importing some as well. And you can see the demand is still just through the roof. The price is far too high. So let's get another import route. We have the bureaucracy to manage it. So let's quickly import some extra wood into the country to try and bring this price down so that our construction sector can work more efficiently. Geez, we just need so much. It's insane. Although it looks like it's starting to come back down. The impact of these trade routes, they will of course level up over time as well. Some are more efficient than others. My goodness, there are some good ones here actually, adding loads of value into the economy. The only other things that are left expensive are the small arms market, which is starting to come down. Maybe if we get one more arms factory up here, that might be enough. Economy in the green, that's looking good. Artillery as well is another problematic one. I feel like we're probably better to just import this, but it is not a super productive trade route. Thinking ahead, Yeah, a lot of these aren't really that great. This one will need no convoys, though. We could just grab a little bit of Ottoman artillery just to fill a little bit of demand. I think that's probably okay. Hello, grassroots support for the law. Sometimes I miss these events. I don't know about you guys. Over on the right-hand side, they can just completely overtake me while I'm busy, like, building a powerful economy or something. Either way, grassroots support for the law, landed voting. We do want to get this through. We can give extra support to the landowners in order to do it. Or we can get plus 20% of lower strata pops become more loyalist. Huh. Do I want to make a deal with the devil? No. Not this time. I'm going to take the loyalism and let's have a look and see what is going on here. Actually, we may even want to take a more direct interest here in future. So what we could probably do is take that interest away. We have our interest in Greater Persia, naturally. Let's get a declared interest in this region here as well, because we could potentially build a bit of a navy and sail across here one day too. There's loads of options available to us. At the moment, it's the Ottoman Empire versus Egypt. The Egyptians are, yeah, it'd be fair to say, winning in terms of war support, but actually, in terms of casualties and cost of war, very similar. Two very similar sides, but the Egyptians are clearly making gains where the Ottomans just aren't, which is good news for us because we're improving relations with them, and they're going to be our best friend. Neat. We've lost our interest in the Caucasus, but we don't really care. We're focused at the moment on constructing like there's no tomorrow, and trying to build up this resource-heavy economy here, actually. Seeing as we're in the green while we're constructing, which is a great place to be, we could look to expand our construction sector again to sort of slightly return it to where it was before. I also note that we have some expansions planned, but they must just be buried. Yeah, look, they're kind of like down here. Let's push these to the front now that we have our wood and fabric under control and get them speeding along nicely. Leave a few down the bottom and we should be good for that to just kind of cruise along and build things. Which means I can pay more attention to the strategic map for a minute, not just awing at that war, but also thinking about some of my next moves. Obviously, we don't want to make the great Macran mistake of 2022 again, but I feel like we can still continue to make some moves. What I might do first, though, is make sure that we have a little bit of a better army. So before I go to war, let's start to upgrade our troops so we can get line infantry in here at the cost of extra consumption of small arms. So we're probably going to need to expand that industry as we go, but that's all right. Let's get line infantry kitted out. We'll also get our artillery upgraded to mobile artillery. This will, of course, consume more artillery, as if the price wasn't high enough. That one's going to be kind of problematic. But we'll do that anyway and see the impacts that it has. It'll probably cause some great stresses on the economy and start to have some real shortages. Afghanistan would like to enter a defensive pact with us. We could team up with Afghanistan and take over. You know what? I was going to fight you, but you're all right. For the time being, let's do that. Because now that we're in a defensive pact with Afghanistan, it should make taking Kalat super duper easy. What I was going to say was we could build a few extra barracks. We do have some space, although we're pretty heavily militarized already. But we could build a few extra here. Some market access is a bit tricky across the way, but that's fine. We could build a few extra and have some extra troops. But actually, you know what? Now that we've got them on side, I think we're going to be fine. Building up a navy, also a neat idea. This territory has had some expansion in it, so we could build it there. I won't focus on that just yet, though, because it'll open up all sorts of other difficulties for us. At the moment, let's focus on upgrading our troops so that we can stomp in here to Kalat with our new ally, defensive pact, mind you, and maybe take over a little bit of extra land. Who knows? Let's start to import some British artillery, a very profitable trade route for us. Neat. And we're going to need temporarily some small arms as well. We get some Brit ones. Or Russian. Let's get some Russian small arms. I love me some small Russian arms. Neat. Otherwise, we're going to need more convoys to support that trade. You know, with the drill, let's get some extra ports. And should be okay. Regardless of what happens, our trade routes could be risky sometimes, depending on who we're going to fight with. And it's for that reason that I'll probably still build up our arms industry. What we probably want to do is start producing some cannons of our own here. So we probably want to change so that we're producing both small arms and artillery. That'll take the pressure off a little bit. We're still stuck at muskets here. That's okay. Let's also potentially jump in and have a look at this industry and see if we can really muck about with it. Because at the moment, there's only one. And it looks like it is... Okay. No, it is increasing its employment, actually. Number 7 arms, and it's now number 40. Okay. It's fluctuating a little bit. What we need to try and make sure is that the input goods are low and that we have enough of these to produce our demand. So I'm going to increase this, give +2. That'll have 3 arms factories. The next thing I'm going to do is notice that iron here. Woof, daddy, this is expensive. We were already, I think, producing some, but clearly we're still way short on iron. So let's get this up to 6. Yep. Now just waiting on that construction backlog to come through. It is our construction sector that's slowing us down, but once they start to churn through all of these upgrades, maybe I slide a couple of these iron ones up closer to the top so that they start to get built now. We should be all good. Fill our deficiencies and secure our economy. One thing that I notice keeps coming up is taxation capacity, and it's of course here in our star territory, Tabriz. Just the favorite. I should really pin this bad boy to the outliner so that we can track how many people live here. It's up to 1.8 million, which is great. Population growing a little bit, migration decreasing. That's all right. It's all good. We actually don't really need to monitor it there, to be fair. But what I was going to say was that it keeps increasing. Population keeps increasing, but this is good because it means that this area is urbanizing. And with that, we'll increase our throughput. But we need to make sure that we keep our taxation capacity high because, as I was saying about the population, you know, most of our people live here, and a huge amount of our economic activity is pumped out of this region. You know, it's very good. So we need to take care of it, but also to ensure that we're taxing it to the max. I don't often jump into tech trees outside of the production one, especially in a game like this where we've started kind of behind. But I really think that I might need to go society and start to just get a couple of basic things, like maybe focus in on romanticism here. This is important for a few different laws and decrees that I might want to enact. Also, down the line, there are some much more interesting ones as well that we can really start to move through and increase some interesting things, particularly in our legal system. So I might spend a little bit of time just unlocking a few different laws. Central archives is a nice one for taxation capacity too. We were just talking about that before. This is neat because then we can stop building those buildings and maybe get a few extra technologies. Banking, another great one. Jeez, we have a lot to research. Here's an interesting one. So the influential faction, the religious faction, can vote essentially to push this landed voting through, and we'll reduce attraction support to them. Or we can really reduce support to them, surge support for the landowners, and boost it as well. So either way, it's a good result. This one boosts it a bit more, and it also doesn't provide support to the landowners. This is kind of a win-win for me in many ways as well. So we'll do that. Landed voting's now at 43% chance. As we start to roll through the next 1 or 2 years, as these checkpoints roll through, we should be all good to push this. It will cost me a bit of authority, so we might have to remove a tax or stop bolstering a group. We don't really need to be bolstering these groups, to be fair. And then we can maybe start to move through to different kinds of systems. You know, we'll sort of eke our way through, unlocking more things, extra strength and wealth, potentially even some opportunity, who knows. Our iron trade route is now unproductive, which is probably actually a good thing because that means that our iron is probably now online and churning away. Yeah, it is. And look, we are so in the green now, even though we're constructing. That is the way to be. Also the way to be. Landed voting is in the house. The aristocrats, the capitalists, the clergymen, and the officers now all have extra political strength. So these groups and the people that make up these groups are fairly pleased. As you can see, industrialists, intelligentsia, and the trade unionists. This is going to start to unlock potential for us to change our government in wonderful ways. And you'll notice that the landowners are now down to 31%. Very interesting. Other groups starting to rise up too. We could almost start to consider a government where they're not part of it, and instead other stronger interest groups sweep in and take their place. At the moment, though, as you can see, it's too many fractured voices. They're just not quite strong enough. So for the time being, we'll keep our landowners in, but maybe we start to bring in some extra voices of dissent to try and push through some new or different laws. All right, Kalat, as I was saying earlier, now that I have a friend next door to you, you are in a very precarious place. Currently, they're improving relations with me. Aha! How dare you? And of course, they're interested in this region. Oh, and the election results are in. Woo! Great. This gives us a chance to reform the government for free, although at the moment, of course, this was our first one. A little bit difficult to probably make any huge changes. Our legitimacy will be a little bit weak as these groups start to level out a bit in power, but we should be all right. So let's expel their diplomats. That will, of course, deteriorate our relations, but it will stop them from improving relations with me, which is very important because then we'll look to either vassalize or conquer. Do I want to make you my vassal, or do I want to take you? A little bit extra infamy, the diplomatic incident, a little bit more extreme. Or we could vassalize and just grow bigger. Also make it a little bit easier to bring the populations within our empire and under our control. The terrain is pretty difficult to fight through, but we should be all good. This time, I'm going to try, I think, and conquer the state. And I'll consider that mistake and many more next time. Do let me know if you like this series, and I'll keep it coming. Also like to know if you'd like the episodes long or short. Feedback always appreciated. See you next time.